8 years ago, I decided to create an organization which teaches entrepreneurship to children from 7 years old. And in this video, I'm going to give you the 10 reasons why I started that organization. But make sure you stay to the end of the video where I give you the bonus reason which is closest to my heart. Now in 2023, I think you'll agree that everyone is on the same page when it comes to young people and children learning about entrepreneurship, because it's become such a popular option for children, young people and adults alike. But adults know that it's taken them some time to get to grips with entrepreneurship. And I always hear, if I was only taught this stuff in school, then wouldn't my entrepreneurial journey be so much easier? Now, just this morning, I kid you not, I was on the phone with the head teacher of a primary school in Manchester who said that when they spoke to the children, and these are primary school kids, so you're talking 10 and under, about what they wanted to be when they grew up, you had the astronaut, fireman, nurse and doctor. But now you also have, I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to be a YouTuber, I want to be a streamer or a gamer. Now all of these job types and career options are new. This isn't the type of thing that children were saying 5 or 10 years ago, but now because of the rise of social media and the exposure they have to content creators who are watching and entrepreneurs like you who are watching and programs like Dragon's Den, Shark Tank and The Apprentice, they're now exposed to entrepreneurship. They understand that views can be monetized, attention can be revenue generating, and that these influencers, they're selling merch, they're selling their time, they're selling sponsorships, they're selling product placements in videos, and so on and so forth. And children are now interested in this idea of entrepreneurship. Problem is that entrepreneurship still in the UK isn't taught in school. It isn't part of the curriculum. And so 7 years ago, when I saw the rise of interest in young people and in children, I decided to create my own organization to solve this problem. Now, if you go onto the internet, and particularly Forbes.com, you'll see that there are loads of articles written about why entrepreneurship should be taught in school, which are all really, really good. And there are lots of books written about the topic too. However, what I'm going to share with you and the reasons I'm going to give aren't based on some kind of academic research. It's not based on articles that I've read. It's based on the experience that I've now garnered over the 7 years, which reinforce the reasons why I started this in the first place. So this all comes from my own personal experience. So this isn't all facts and figures necessarily, but it's more about insight. It's more about the nuance. It's more about seeing actually how children responded to entrepreneurship and what has that done to my initial assumptions. So the first reason is problem solving. Now, I mean, I can't tell you how many problems I face in adult life, and I'm sure you do too, but actually the way in which you approach problem solving is really important. As you know, entrepreneurship is one of those tools, and I say entrepreneurship as a toolkit as well as a mindset. There's a multifaceted way in which you can use entrepreneurship. And for me, the problem solving aspect of entrepreneurial thinking has been extremely valuable in my life. The first business I set up with some friends of mine when I was 18 years old was solving the problem of being able to afford cool clothes when we didn't have any money. So we got together. My girlfriend at the time had just qualified at the London College of Fashion. She was able to design. She taught us how to make clothes, the types of clothes that we saw in music videos actually. And at the time you had to import clothes. We're talking the mid-90s. So they were pretty much unaffordable, but we still wanted to look good. So the way in which we solved that problem was to make the clothes ourselves. And there was a group of 10, 15 of us, and we got together. She taught us how to sew. We learned how to pattern cut, choose fabrics, sew zips and buttons and follow a design and put those clothes on and actually, you know, have our chest out, look really cool in the area that we lived in. But we realized that not only did we solve a problem for ourselves, we solved a problem for our peers. We solved a problem for hundreds, if not thousands, of other young people who wanted to look good but could not afford it. So for me, that was pretty groundbreaking as a young person, seeing that I could identify a problem, which were clothes being unaffordable, being able to find a solution, a low-cost solution that we could control and create a product, there's some tangible output that has a monetary value that people are willing to exchange currency for, and then be able to repeat that process and repeat it at scale. So we ended up supplying clothes shops in the West London area. We went up and down the country selling hats, particularly that we'd made called socks hats back in the day, which you'll see in some of the 90s hip hop videos. And for us, we were able to repeat and scale that business and scale those products and try out different things. And that was an experience that closed the loop on this entrepreneurial idea that we present to 7-year-olds or 70-year-olds or 17-year-olds, which is you can do what you love and make money from it. That is what an entrepreneur is able to do. And for us, we loved clothes, we loved fashion, and we could solve a problem. And in solving that problem, we could create some value. And in creating value, that tangible value meant that we could make money from it. And therefore, if we could make money from it, we could repeat the process and scale. Reason number 2 is the mindset that entrepreneurship can develop and the confidence that it can build. Now, this is massive. For many of us, we know that confidence can be the building blocks for almost anything you want to achieve in life. I remember when I was in my early 20s, there was a friend of mine who was a lot more confident than I was, but I didn't think he was as smart as I was or as hardworking as I was or had the skills that I had. But he had a lot more confidence. And I remember he would get jobs that I couldn't get or didn't get. And he was able to get opportunities that I didn't even know existed. And I looked at it, I had to stop myself and think, what does this guy have? And he was a friend of mine at the time, but I was thinking, what is he doing that I'm not doing? Because I've got more stuff than he does, right? But his confidence eclipsed the stuff that I had. And that taught me at the time that even if you're not confident, you've almost got to pretend to be confident. I mean, I didn't become confident overnight. I saw that if I did not at least exhibit the traits of confidence, that other people wouldn't have confidence in me. So having that experience, seeing that friend of mine doing stuff that I really wanted to do, and it was just that one ingredient that he had, or I believed he had, then really shifted the way in which I presented myself in the world. And really that's about growth mindset. Many of you will be familiar with the work of Carol Dweck, who coined the term fixed mindset and growth mindset, which essentially says, if you don't believe you can do something, you can't. So if a child doesn't believe they're good at maths, they probably won't be. If somebody doesn't believe they can go and get a job or start a business, then they probably won't. In this instance, when I saw the friend of mine who had something that I didn't have at the time, I didn't have confidence. I was not a confident young man. I believed that I could become confident. That was the growth mindset element. And that was the difference that enabled me to go up another level in my career. Reason number 3, very obvious, is the ability to make money. Now, the dynamic here was that when I started that business with my friends, it was the first experience that I had of employability, which was self-employability. I hadn't had a job before that. I didn't really have another metric to measure making money against. In the UK, at least, 62% of children do not receive formal financial education. And of the 38% who do receive financial education, it's often wrapped up into a subject area called PSHE. So PSHE stands for Personal, Social, Health and Economic. In that area of the curriculum, schools are encouraged to teach financial literacy, but historically, this area of the curriculum has been severely under-resourced. So teachers just don't have the lesson plans and the schemes of work and the resources and the toolkits to teach these subjects. So they'll default to the maybe personal or social rather than, or the health, and not necessarily the economic aspect of PSHE. And if I'm honest, most people who remember PSHE classes who are perhaps under 30, remember it being a lesson where you didn't do much, or the teacher just put on a video, or you were given a worksheet. And it isn't because the teachers were bad. I suspect it's because the teachers didn't have easy access to resources that enable them to teach financial literacy. Reason number 4 was to foster creativity and curiosity. Now, for me, creativity comes before innovation. Innovation comes before entrepreneurship. So without creativity, in my mind, we do not have entrepreneurship. I was explaining to a teacher this morning that entrepreneurship isn't about buying a widget for £1 and selling it for £2. It's about taking that widget and innovating on it, making it better, making it faster, more efficient, easier to use, improving the experience of that widget, doing something which extends the value of a product or service that already exists so that you are meeting the needs of what are existing or new problems. That for me is entrepreneurship. That process requires creativity, and it also requires curiosity, the ability to keep asking why, and you're asking why because you care about that particular area of life. So for example, if I'm interested in education, then I may ask, why don't kids get the grades that they should in school? Why is it that young people aren't prepared to go into the workplace? Or why is it that lots of young people disengage from traditional education? And why are exams so difficult and cause so much stress? So I care about those problems, so I'll then create products or services to help solve those problems. And there's a massive industry in education and in educational technology which are looking at a number of those issues. However, if you're not curious enough about the problem, then you won't be able to identify the nuances of that problem and then think about how can you create new solutions? How can you be creative enough to come up with something that can solve that problem in a unique way that people will find usable and enjoyable? Number 5, the 5th reason is resilience and grit. Now, we all know that entrepreneurship is a road laden with failure. But entrepreneurs use failure to their advantage. And there was a primary school class which I taught when we first launched the company back in 2015. I turned the word fail into an acronym, which was First Attempt in Learning. And I remember in this class, I put on a short award-winning animation of this little boy who was making a plane that he wanted to fly. Obviously, this little boy was going nowhere with this until a miniature pilot came out of the sky, landed on his desk, and helped him to engineer this plane. And as he helped this little boy to engineer the plane, he was able to fly off into the sky. And as he looked up, he saw hundreds of other aircrafts in the sky. And it was this magical problem-solving moment that this little character and the boy went through, failing and learning and failing and learning until they got the plane to fly. This was no more than a 6-minute video, but within this design and technology class, I remember these 8-year-olds, I'd given them the task of coming up with a poster which used the boy and the plane and the word First Attempt in Learning to come up with a creative design. And at the end of that lesson, the teacher said she's never seen the students so engaged in a topic and coming up with so many creative ways to combine this little boy, this animation, this idea of failure. And I suspect it's because understanding that failure can actually take you forward was probably quite empowering for them. And perhaps was the first time they were presented with the concept that failure was not bad, because in school, failure is a bad thing. If you fail your exams, I mean, no one gives you a pat on the back. So actually unpacking the word and coming up with a new way to define it, I suspect they really enjoyed that. And that's something that we use in our approach to teach entrepreneurship ever since. Reason number 6 is self-esteem. Now, for those of you who know me, and you might hear my story in other videos during this YouTube channel, I wasn't a confident child. I had very low self-esteem, and entrepreneurship helped to build that self-esteem essentially, because I recognized that I had an ability to solve problems, come up with products and services, sell them, and help people out. And it was the help people out bit that made me feel like I had some kind of value, right? People would listen to what I said, people would take my advice, and it was really empowering for me to be able to journey people on in their businesses, in their life, with an insight that I had had from solving this problem in the fashion business that I started when I was 17 or 18 years old. So my self-esteem against these statistics. So for those of you who don't know, I am a boy of Caribbean heritage. My father was Jamaican, my mother was Grenadian. And in the borough of Brent, which is in northwest London, boys of Caribbean heritage for decades have been amongst the lowest performing in the entire country. Now, another shocking statistic in this country is that the greatest predictor of your life chances is the postcode that you were born in. And for those of you who are watching from the States, a postcode is the equivalent of your zip code. So the area that you were born in determines statistically where you will move socially and what your life chances will be and what you will be able to achieve. And I believe that having an early experience with entrepreneurship helped me to increase my life chances probably 20 times at least. I used to say 10 times, it's probably more like 20 times. And so I believe that that growth in self-esteem was due to my experience with entrepreneurship and my ongoing experience with entrepreneurship. And that's what I wanted to teach the next generation in the organization that we started. Reason number 7 is managing money. Now, if you're an adult or a child, managing your pocket money or managing your wages, managing your income is extremely important. But all jokes aside, rates of financial literacy for young people and even for adults is extremely low. It's lower than it needs to be in this country. And debt, being able to manage and balance your bills, your income, not spending too much, not saving enough, are all problems which are decades old. Now, being able to practice managing money as a child through entrepreneurship and through developing a business is a really great way to get practical, hands-on experience with managing money. Because as a child, you're probably not going to have any bills. So personal finance isn't going to be something that you can practically experience whilst you are a child. It's really only when you are a young adult and you start to move out on your own and you get your own bills, you open your own bank account, that you can really exercise personal finance. A lot of that can be done as a child, but you are limited. However, if you run a business as a child, you can experience all of the learning that an adult will experience by managing the money that comes into the business. Reason number 8 is unemployment. In the UK, there are currently 1 million unemployed young people. Now, I always say that if you are able to get the job of your dreams, that's amazing. But if you can't, you should be able to create your own job, create your own employment based on the thing that you are passionate about and that you really love to do. There's been a massive focus on getting a job, whereas actually we know that there isn't an equal focus on creating your own job or becoming an entrepreneur. And that is one of the reasons why I started the company, because I wanted to provide an opportunity set which was wider than just going into getting a career in a 9-to-5 job, but actually being able to create your own job, because otherwise you'll be unemployed, you'll be living off social security or welfare, and you're not going to really have a great experience or a great time at life. And actually, these 1 million unemployed young people cost the UK £28 million per year. And out of 100 school leavers, only 15 will consider starting their own business. The other 85 will be going into work. So therefore, there's greater competition in the workplace and there are less people starting a business, potentially less people addressing the market that you're going after. So it all evens out. Reason number 9 is learning how to sell, because whether you are selling a product, whether you are selling content, you're selling attention, or you are selling yourself in an interview, sales is extremely important. In business, there is the idea of always be selling, always be closing. And actually, even in a job, even in your career, you are selling yourself for promotion, for pay rises, to build up your profile because you might want to go and get another job. So the idea and learning how to sell is critically important. But if you only learn how to sell as an adult, then you're going to have some problems. It's a little bit like if you only learn maths and addition, subtraction, and multiplication, very basics of financial literacy and understanding numeracy. If you're only introduced to those topics as a teenager or as a young adult, or even as a grown adult, you're going to have a hard time. So in the same way, if you're only introduced the concept of sales or the concept of how to sell a product or service or yourself in adult life, it's going to be difficult for you to be able to do that. And you will lose out on opportunities, you will lose out on chances, and you will lose out on the ability to progress, whether it's in a career, in a business, or in life. So I believe teaching the skill of selling early on is critical. And the way that we've done that is simply by encouraging kids to tell their story, tell the story of why they've come up with the cakes and the cookies, or the photography business, or the technology business, or the creams and hair products, or deodorants and the books. Tell that story, because we all know as adults that telling a story is a sales process, and kids love telling stories and adults love hearing it. It is extremely endearing and it's the easiest way that they can learn how to sell. And it's one of the building blocks that we hope that they can take on with them into their futures. Reason number 10 is productivity. So in the UK, we are 15% below the United States, Germany, and France when it comes to productivity. We have a productivity issue in the UK. And I believe that's because people are not doing what they love. As we know, the general workforce in this country can't wait for Friday and they hate Monday mornings. And that's because they're not really that passionate about the work that they're doing. Yes, there are a number of people who are fortunate enough to say that they love their jobs, but that is not the general consensus. Now, if you don't love your job, you don't like what you're doing, chances are you're not going to do it very well. You're not going to do it with the oomph that's required to make the entire business productive. And if you consider that the average business, I don't know how many people the average business has, but let's say the average business has 100 people and at least 75% of them are not productive or as productive as they can be, that's going to have a massive knock-on effect on the business overall. Now, entrepreneurship is directly linked to passion. Entrepreneurs do not work 80 hours a week for no reason. They work that long often because they really enjoy what they do and they don't see it as work. So their level of productivity goes through the roof. And often they are doing it because they are on a mission and because they've found a problem that they really want to solve, something that they're super interested in and super curious about. And engendering that idea at an early age ingrains this idea of being productive based on the things that you really love to do. And now for the bonus reason, which is genuinely close to my heart, and that is entrepreneurship is one of the greatest ways for you to find your purpose or to find a purpose. Again, as I said in lesson number 10, entrepreneurs use the language of passion and purpose on a regular basis because that's what drives them. They're not just running a business for the sake of generating profit. They're doing it because they believe that it is developing them personally, and that personal development is aligned with something which they believe often can benefit society or a large number of individuals who might happen to be customers, clients, or beneficiaries of the work that they're doing. And further to that, one of the reasons I believe that entrepreneurs become serial entrepreneurs, once they have exercised a particular purpose and been able to grow from that purpose, from that idea, from that business, and they've hit a ceiling of development, they will then move on to find another area of development to extend the journey of what could be something new, a new purpose. Now, this idea of purpose, and I've mentioned this in the prior video, it feels like when we're told to go and find your purpose, that it's a singular purpose, it's one thing. And I don't believe that's the case. I believe that you can have more than one purpose all at the same time, or that you can exhaust a purpose and get what you need from the development there and move on and actually have another interest, another purpose, something else, another mission you want to go on, another problem you want to solve, another way in which you want to contribute to society. So that's it. Those are the 10 reasons why I decided 7 years ago to start teaching entrepreneurship. And if you found this video useful and any of the insights and experiences that I've shared, that's absolutely amazing. Do drop me a comment. Otherwise, I will catch you on the next video. Ultra and out.